when your practice contradicts your testimony, you remove the power out of it, and it's no longer the spirit of prophecy. We cannot say, when we live contrary to the testimony of Jesus in our life, we cannot say then, if he did it for me, he can do it for you. And apply that testimony and see that person healed, delivered, saved, brought into the kingdom. How many of us, I'm asking you, how many of us and our children, they have become cynical and distrustful of what our fathers and elders, our leaders in authority, because of political, religious, sexual misconduct that disempowers the power of our testimony. Yesterday, I was talking to you about how disappointed I was when I found out about Ravi Zacharias. It disempowers his testimony. That's why I'm disappointed. Do I think that he is more than a man and sometimes and above sin? No, I do not. But what I am disappointed about is the disempowering of his testimony for all the generations. If we live in contradiction to the testimony that we bear about the power of Jesus in our life, how will another generation receive that as a spirit of prophecy over themselves? You see, those who have yet to encounter Jesus, those who have not yet realized, stepped into the mighty call that is on their lives, they're all asking, they're watching us and they're asking, is he the God of wonders or not? Is he the God who saves? I don't see any evidence of it in my life, and I don't see any of it in yours either. How will a new generation believe our testimony of a powerful God, a God of wonders, worthy of all worship and devotion, if we are bowing down to the idols of our time, if we are compromising with the culture of our time, if our lives carry an apostate testimony when we have turned from loyalty to our God? Listen, Jesus, Paul, James, and John tell us that our lives, they're a letter written to the world around us. Our lives bear witness to what we really believe and worship. Our lives speak a language that is more powerful than words alone. The loudest sermon you are ever going to preach is the life that you are living before others. I don't know, what's the story? What is the story that your time, what you give your time to, what you give your checkbook to, what you give your words to, what you give your attitudes to, what you give your marriage to? What is the testimony? What is the writing, the letter that is written to the world around you if they looked into those things? And so we feel a little crushed, but I'm telling you that God has set us up. Just as he was setting up the Israelites, you see, for another move of his spirit. Because yes, he was a very unlikely hero, and so are all of us. But God is about to answer Gideon's question, his real question, because see, Gideon didn't really even know who was visiting him. We know that because he asked, can I do the hospitable thing and bring you something to eat and drink? Would you wait here and let me do that and let me fulfill this little hospitable thing? He's being, like he's finally entering into the customs of his fathers. I'm going to bring you a little something to eat. Would you wait here? And when he gets there, the angel says, put it on a rock. And when he puts it on the rock, the angel touches it with the tip and the fire of God comes. You know what that is? That's called a theophany. It's a visitation. No different than when Moses saw the burning bush. And he knew then he had been face to face with God. You see, he had asked the question, how can I save a nation? I don't even know exactly who you are. Why would he not know when God came? Why would he not know the time of his visitation? Because the testimony of his fathers had been disempowered. And so Gideon has asked, if I found favor, please give me a sign that it's you. Because he's still not sure. Who is this who's speaking to me? But in that moment, when he puts that meal on the rock and the fire comes down, then see, the meal becomes a sacrifice. And God has received his sacrifice by fire. And this Gideon, the weak, the unbelieving, in that moment, he becomes Gideon, the priest of the living God. And God has answered his real question. And what was Gideon's real question? Is this really you, God? Are you the God of wonders? Does the God of wonders even really exist? God, are you real? And it's the only question that matters. Does the God that we have heard about, the God of Toronto outpouring, does the God that we have heard about so many times through so many revivals until this very moment, does that God really, really exist? Is he a God who will intervene? Will he save? Will he heal? Does he speak? Is he real? And I love this quote from an unknown scholar who says, in a burst of flames, Gideon's previous uncertainty vanishes as the fire brings illumination. This fire encounter brought illumination, the self-revelation of God. Yes, Gideon, I am. Yes, Gideon, I am the God of wonders. I am the one who brought your fathers out of Egypt with a mighty hand. I am the one who calls and answers with fire. I am real and I am with you. The stories of his fathers are suddenly restored to testimony in the light of this encounter. And now Gideon is ready for his first assignment. And this is where we have been coming all along in this message. This is the answer to what does revival really look like. From the beginning of this message, you see, the name Gideon means tearing down. It means hacking. He was a hacker. It means shattering and destroying. And in Deuteronomy 7:5 and 12:3, it says, "But thus you shall deal with them, the idols. You shall break down their altars. You shall dash in pieces their pillars, and you shall chop." Really, actually, in the Hebrew, the word is you shall Gideon down the idols and burn them with fire. This, my friends, is cultural transformation. You've been wondering what cultural transformation is? It's tearing down the idols of our culture. The pagan idols and the icons are to be Gideon down, not bowed down to, not compromised with. There's no compromise with an idol because it divides our loyalty to God. The idol he is sent to tear down is his own father's. It's an idol that is not only owned by his own father, but it has become a community shrine. It has infected the entire tribe. And it has caused that next generation to defect. I don't know about you, but when I look at the church right now, I'm worried. I'm worried about the compromise with culture. I'm worried about the unholiness I see. I know that this next revival is going to be mighty. And I believe everything that the prophets are saying, and I have prophesied the same thing. And I believe it's going to be a move of holiness, which actually is a wholeness of devotion to God. Because listen, when your devotion to God is whole, and it's uncompromised, and it's not divided any longer, then you will not indulge in any of those practices. Wow. Small ears, that's what happens. That bring unholiness into your life. And I look at our church and I see the young people who have left in droves. And I can't help but think it's because we have a disempowered testimony. Because even though we give the testimony of Jesus, we are flirting with the culture. We are indulging in the culture. We're indulging our appetites without any kind of restraint. We're compromising with the politics and with everything else that's happening today. And we are afraid in this time. And in our fear, we are turning to other things to help us feel secure. And in doing that, we disempower our testimony because we're not really trusting God. Are you hearing what the Spirit is saying? Are you getting this? And so I'm telling you that God is using this time, this pandemic, this unrest, everything that's going on, all the trouble, to visit us. It is the beginning of revival. Oh, we think it's going to look like, oh, and wait a minute, let me fall down. God wants to restore the testimony to the church because he is the God of power. God wants to release a move that will tear down the idols in the church first, because judgment begins at the house of God. It is a reformation in the church for a restoration. He's coming to deal with the enemy within that has made us vulnerable to the enemy without.